The renovation crew had been upgrading Riverside High School's basement for 3 days when they discovered a sealed room behind the old archive shelves. It was October 12th, 2025, and 44-year-old contractor Michael Davis broke through the drywall to find a small space that wasn't on any blueprint. Inside, on the dusty concrete floor, lay a human skeleton still wearing a high school varsity jacket, textbooks scattered around the bones. Within hours, DNA would confirm what the small Montana town of Riverside had feared for 20 years. They'd finally found Ashley Morgan, the beloved junior who vanished while studying in the school library on November 8th, 2005. Her study table had been left with books open, notes spread out, her backpack hanging on the chair, as if she'd simply stepped away for a moment. The truth was far darker. She'd been murdered and sealed in a storage room by someone who worked at the school every day, someone she'd trusted, someone whose obsessive attention she'd rejected, someone who'd continued working security for years using her memory. For 20 years, students had walked the halls just feet above, never knowing their classmate's body lay hidden beneath the library. Michael Davis was an experienced contractor at 44 years old. He'd been doing repairs and renovations for schools in Montana for 20 years. Riverside High School wanted to modernize their old basement, which had been used for storage since construction. The school had been operating since 1990. Michael and his crew started work on October 9th, 2025. On October 12th afternoon, they were carefully removing the wall behind the old archive shelves. The plan was to create a larger storage area. Michael was removing drywall panels when he noticed something strange. Behind the wall was a small room that shouldn't exist. The blueprints didn't show this space. "Wait," he told crew member Tom, who'd worked with him for 8 years. "There's a hidden area here. This isn't on the plans." When he removed the wall section, he saw a small storage room, about 5 feet wide, 6 feet long, completely sealed. And inside, by his flashlight, a skeleton wearing a varsity jacket with Riverside High on it, surrounded by old textbooks. Beside it lay a faded purple backpack and notebook pages, covered in dust. Michael's hands trembled. "My God, call the police now." Riverside Police Department arrived within 20 minutes. 2 patrol cars came first, followed by Detective James Wilson's vehicle. Wilson was 50 years old with 25 years of law enforcement experience. He knew small Montana towns well. Forensic teams carefully examined the sealed area. Crime scene technicians photographed every angle, measured distances, collected samples. The skeleton was in a standing position, leaning against the back wall. There was blunt force trauma to the back of the skull, multiple impact points suggesting repeated strikes. Clothing remnants included a varsity jacket with school colors, faded jeans, and sneakers. Beside the skeleton were textbooks including chemistry, algebra, and American history. A silver watch had stopped at 8:45 p.m. "Student," Wilson said, kneeling beside the remains. "High school student. Let's check this school's complete history and missing persons cases." School records were carefully examined over the next hours by Detective Wilson and his team. There was one significant missing case from 2005. Ashley Morgan, 16 years old, junior student, disappeared November 8th, 2005. Wilson opened the thick 2005 case file stored in archives. Sheriff Robert Hayes had conducted the original investigation. Hayes was now retired, but Wilson called him that evening. "Ashley Morgan," Hayes said slowly, 68 years old now. "Never forgot that case. It haunted me for years. Wonderful student. Everyone loved her. Straight A student with a bright future. She disappeared one Tuesday night studying in the library. We searched everywhere for months. Found absolutely no trace." "Any suspicious people at the time?" Wilson asked carefully. Hayes paused, thinking back. "The security guard, Mark Stevens. He was working that night. He seemed very concerned during questioning, helped organize search parties, put up missing posters. No red flags back then. He was quiet, been working at the school about 5 years. Everyone trusted him. DNA comparison was done at the state crime laboratory. Ashley's mother, Jennifer Morgan, 59, still lived in Riverside 4 miles from the high school. A reference sample was provided. 1 week later, the result came back. Perfect match. The skeleton was Ashley Marie Morgan. Ashley Marie Morgan was born in Montana on March the 15th, 1989, to loving parents Jennifer and Robert Morgan. She grew up in Riverside, an only child in a close family. From a young age, she showed extraordinary academic ability and love of learning. She excelled in school. At age 13, she made the honor roll for the first time. When she started high school in 2003, she continued to excel. She maintained a perfect 4.0 grade point average throughout freshman and sophomore years. She was active in student council, serving as class representative. She was a member of the chemistry club and volunteered as a peer tutor. In 2004, she completed sophomore year as class valedictorian. In fall 2005, she began junior year with ambitious plans. Her goal was to attend college on a full academic scholarship and pursue medicine. "I want to be a doctor," she'd tell her mother. "I want to help people." She was studying hard that semester, determined to maintain her perfect record. But there was something Ashley didn't know. The school security guard had developed an inappropriate and dangerous obsession with her. Mark Stevens was born in Montana in 1967 in a working-class family. He'd been divorced since his early 30s, had no children, lived alone. In 2000, at age 33, he started working at Riverside High School as a security guard. He was a quiet, isolated man. When Ashley started high school in 2003, Mark began to take inappropriate notice of her. She was bright, beautiful, friendly to everyone, full of potential. Mark would find excuses to patrol near her locker, position himself where he could watch her in the cafeteria, offer unsolicited help, try to make uncomfortable small talk. Ashley was always polite, but clearly uncomfortable, and tried to maintain distance. In fall 2005, Mark crossed a serious line. In October, he approached Ashley after school and asked if she'd like to get coffee with him, with clear romantic intention. Ashley declined politely but firmly, her discomfort obvious. "Mr. Stevens, that's not appropriate at all. I'm 16 years old and you work here at my school. Please don't ask me things like that again." Mark was humiliated and crushed. He'd built up hope over 2 years, misinterpreting her politeness. The rejection turned his attraction to obsession, then to bitter rage. November 8th, 2005, Tuesday evening. Ashley was working late in the school library preparing for her chemistry test scheduled for next morning. She'd stayed after school, as she often did, studying until the building was nearly empty. Mark was doing his evening security rounds. At 8:30 p.m., Mark walked into the library. "Ashley, there's a water leak in the basement archive area. Could you help me move some of the old yearbooks before they get water damaged? You're on student council, right?" Ashley, always responsible and willing to help with school matters, gathered her notes and stood up. "Sure, of course I'll help." They walked together down to the basement archive area. Mark led her to the space behind the old archive shelves. It was dark, isolated, and rarely visited. "Where exactly is the leak?" Ashley asked, looking around with growing unease. Mark hesitated for just one moment, his heart pounding. Then he made his terrible decision. Leaning against the wall was a heavy metal shelf support rod. Mark grabbed it with both hands and struck Ashley's head from behind with tremendous force. Ashley fell to the concrete floor, shocked and confused, blood beginning to flow. "Mr. Stevens, what are you doing?" Mark, now panicking, struck her again with the metal rod, then again. Ashley stopped moving, stopped breathing. Blood pooled on the floor. Mark dropped the rod and checked her pulse with trembling hands. Nothing. Ashley Morgan was dead. Mark backed away, breathing heavily, confronting the enormity of what he'd done. What had he done? He'd killed Ashley, a 16-year-old student, a bright, kind girl who'd never done anything wrong except reject his inappropriate attention. But then, cold reality hit. This was the only solution now. If Ashley was gone, no one could tell anyone about his behavior. No one would know. Mark worked quickly through the night, driven by desperate fear. In the basement was an unused space behind the old archive shelves. Mark dragged Ashley's body into that dark corner and positioned her against the back wall. Then he spent the next several hours building a solid wall to seal it permanently. He found drywall panels in the maintenance room, screws, joint compound, paint that matched the existing walls. He worked methodically until early morning. By 5 a.m., the wall looked exactly like it had been there since 1990. Then, he carefully returned to the library. He left Ashley's study area exactly as it was. Textbooks open on the table, notes spread out in her handwriting, her purple backpack hanging on the chair, her phone in the front pocket. The scene looked perfectly normal, as if Ashley had simply stepped away for a moment. In the early morning, Mark drove home, took a long shower, and tried to sleep. But he couldn't sleep. Ashley's face was in his mind. Her voice asking why echoed endlessly. But he told himself he had no choice now. It was done. At 9:30 p.m. the previous evening, Jennifer Morgan had tried calling Ashley to ask when she'd be home. No answer. She wasn't worried initially. Ashley often studied late. But by 10 p.m. she was concerned. Early the next morning, she drove to the school, increasingly worried. The library door was locked, but through the window Jennifer could see Ashley's purple backpack still hanging on a chair. Her textbooks were still open on the table. Her phone was visible in the backpack. But Ashley was nowhere to be found. Jennifer immediately called police. Sheriff Hayes arrived within minutes and began a thorough investigation. The school was searched methodically. Every classroom, every closet, every storage area, everything appeared completely normal. Ashley's study area in the library was organized and undisturbed. Her car was still in the student parking lot, but Ashley Morgan was missing without explanation. Hayes questioned Mark Stevens extensively. "When did you last see Ashley?" "Last night around 8 o'clock, Mark said, seeming genuinely worried, his performance convincing. "She was studying in the library for a chemistry test. I was doing my evening rounds. I told her I'd need to lock up soon. She said she'd just be a little longer. I finished my rounds and left around 9:30. Ashley was still studying. She's such a dedicated student, always stays late." Searches were organized immediately throughout the community. Police and dozens of community volunteers combed the entire town. The surrounding wilderness and mountain areas were searched for days. Ashley's car was examined thoroughly, nothing unusual. The library was dusted for fingerprints, only expected ones from students and staff. Her phone records were examined, just normal communications with friends and family about homework. Weeks passed, then months, then years. No trace of Ashley Morgan anywhere. Jennifer and Robert Morgan were emotionally devastated. Robert died of a heart attack in 2010, many believed from the stress and grief. Jennifer never gave up hoping for years. "She'll come back somehow," she'd say, though her voice grew less certain with each passing year. Mark continued working at the school. For years he worked as a security guard, expressing deep concern about Ashley's disappearance, helping organize annual memorial vigils. He attended every community meeting about the case. He was especially kind to Jennifer, asking about any new leads, expressing sympathy. Jennifer was grateful for his ongoing concern. In 2010, Mark was promoted to head of security. He implemented new safety protocols in Ashley's memory. He spoke at school assemblies about student safety, always mentioning Ashley as the reason these measures were important. He became a trusted, respected figure in the community. For 20 long years, Mark worked at Riverside High School. Every single day, he walked past Ashley's memorial photo hanging in the main hallway near the library, a beautiful yearbook portrait of her smiling in her varsity jacket. Every year, he attended the November memorial vigil that Jennifer organized. He spoke with emotion about hoping Ashley would be found. He visited Jennifer on Ashley's birthday each year. Jennifer attended every school event, and Mark was always kind and supportive. She told everyone how much it meant that someone at the school still cared about finding Ashley after all these years. She had absolutely no idea that every time Mark expressed sympathy, every time he attended a memorial, every time he visited her home, he was standing above the place where he'd hidden her daughter's body. Until October 2025. Michael Davis's construction crew broke through that wall during the basement renovation project. Detective Wilson worked closely with genetic genealogy specialist Dr. Sarah Chen from the State Crime Laboratory. Forensic analysis found trace DNA on Ashley's bones and clothing, biological material Mark had inevitably left behind while moving her body and constructing the wall. A detailed genetic profile was created and uploaded to multiple databases. Dr. Chen uploaded the DNA profile and began building a family tree. 2 weeks of careful analysis later, a definitive match emerged: Mark Stevens. On October 25, 2025, Detective Wilson arrived at Mark's modest rental house with 2 uniformed officers. Mark opened the door, looking exhausted and older than his 58 years. "Detective Wilson, I knew someone would come eventually," he said quietly, resignation clear in his voice. "Mr. Stevens, you're under arrest in connection with the murder of Ashley Morgan." Mark nodded slowly, showing no resistance. "I know. You found her. I've carried this burden for 20 years. Part of me is actually relieved it's finally over." At the station, Mark requested an attorney, but then decided to confess fully, perhaps seeking redemption or unable to carry the weight any longer. "I've lived with her ghost for 20 years, he told Wilson, tears streaming down his face. Every single day at that school, walking past Ashley's memorial photo, attending vigils, visiting her mother on her birthday, organizing safety protocols in her name, knowing she was sealed right there beneath the building just feet away. I didn't plan to kill her. I just got so angry and humiliated when she rejected me. One moment of rage and panic. But that moment cost Ashley everything: her life, her future, her dreams of being a doctor, her family, and it cost me my humanity." The confession was detailed and complete. That Tuesday night, the fake story about a water leak, the attack in the basement, building the wall, arranging her study area to look undisturbed, everything. When the news spread through Riverside, the small community was shocked and felt deeply betrayed. Mark Stevens, the trusted security guard who'd honored Ashley's memory for 20 years, who'd comforted her mother, who'd implemented safety measures in her name, was her killer. Jennifer gave an emotional press statement, her voice breaking with pain, anger, and devastating betrayal. "My daughter trusted Mark. She saw him every day at school. And Mark murdered her because she rejected his inappropriate attention. For 20 years, I attended every memorial, and Mark was there expressing sympathy. He came to my house on her birthday every year. He told me he wished he'd seen something that could help find her. I supported, trusted, and thanked my daughter's killer. The betrayal is beyond words." The trial began in November 2025. Mark was charged with first-degree murder of a minor. His attorney tried to argue it wasn't premeditated, but the prosecutor presented overwhelming evidence. The jury deliberated for 4 difficult days. Verdict: guilty of first-degree murder. At the sentencing hearing, Jennifer spoke through tears and barely controlled rage. Mark built his entire career on my daughter's corpse, sealed in a basement. He lied to my face every single day for 20 years. He smiled at me at memorials while standing above her grave. He came to my home on her birthday with flowers while knowing exactly where she was. He deserves every day of his punishment. The judge announced the sentence: life in prison with possibility of parole after 25 years. Mark was 58 years old. He could apply for parole at age 83, though it was unlikely to ever be granted. Mark stood and faced the courtroom, his voice barely audible. I deserve this sentence. Ashley didn't deserve what I did. I wish desperately I could undo that night, but I can't. I'll spend whatever time I have left living with what I did to that innocent girl. Riverside High School officially renamed the library Ashley Morgan Student Library. A bronze plaque was installed. Ashley Marie Morgan, 1989 to 2005. Bright student who loved learning and dreamed of helping others. Taken far too soon, never forgotten. Detective Wilson said in media interviews, "Killers are sometimes the people we see and trust every day, people who seem to care." Mark Stevens worked at that school for 20 years after killing Ashley, attending her memorials, comforting her mother. Without modern DNA technology and genetic genealogy, we might never have solved this case. Science brought justice for Ashley and her family. Riverside is slowly healing from the deep sense of shock and betrayal. The school continues to serve the community with enhanced safety measures. Ashley's legacy of dedication to learning lives on in the students who study in the library that now bears her name. If this story moved you, please subscribe and hit the like button. Comment which case you'd like us to investigate next.